Every time you fail, something valuable is hidden in the rubble, a new idea, a new skill, a new level of strength. The poor walk away from the wreckage, the rich dig until they find the treasure. The secret of wealth isn't in never falling down, it's in how quickly you bounce back up. The rich don't fear the fall because they've trained their minds to rise faster than they drop. And that mindset, that discipline, that's where the millions are made. Let me tell you something I learned early in life. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your greatest teacher if you stay long enough in the classroom. The problem is, most people run from the lesson before it's over. They fall down once, get embarrassed, and decide to never try again. But the rich, the truly successful, they treat failure like fertile soil. It may look like dirt, it may smell like defeat, but that's where every seed of wisdom grows. You don't learn from comfort, you learn from collision. Every stumble teaches you something about your limits, your habits, your patience, and your preparation. Success doesn't grow on top of success. It grows out of the broken ground of failure that's been properly cultivated with reflection, humility, and discipline. When I was a young man, I remember trying to sell my first product. I was nervous, unprepared, and full of ambition but lacking direction. I failed so badly I almost talked myself out of ever selling again. I blamed the economy, the customers, the timing, everything except myself. But after the dust settled, I realized something. The problem wasn't the product or the people. It was my preparation, my attitude, my understanding of human nature. That moment of reflection changed everything. I started studying, practicing, learning how to listen instead of talk, how to serve instead of sell. And when I tried again, the result was different, not because the world changed, but because I did. That's what failure is for. It's not punishment, it's instruction. You see, every time you fail, the universe hands you a mirror, and what you do with that reflection determines everything that happens next. The poor mindset says, I guess I'm not good at this. The rich mindset says, what didn't I see? The first attitude closes the door, the second opens it wider. Failure is never final unless you refuse to look inside it. The rich are not those who fail less, they're those who interpret failure differently. They understand that the price of wisdom is paid in mistakes, and they're willing to pay it in full. So the next time you fail, don't run. Sit down with it. Study it like a textbook. Ask yourself, what happened here? What can I learn? What will I do differently next time? Then write it down. Don't just think it, record it. Because written lessons become lived wisdom. When you write down 3 lessons from every failure, you start to see patterns. You'll discover that most failures aren't random at all, they're repetitive. The same lack of patience, the same poor judgment, the same emotional reactions, they keep showing up until you fix them. Failure keeps visiting until it knows you've learned the lesson. Think of failure as tuition, not a tax. Taxes take from you. Tuition teaches you. Every mistake is a payment toward a better version of yourself. But here's the key. You must apply the lesson immediately. Knowledge unpracticed is just potential. Knowledge applied is power. If you don't change your actions after a failure, you've wasted the experience. You've paid the price but skipped the education. So don't be afraid of failing. Be afraid of quitting before you understand what the failure was trying to show you. Because once you start treating failure as an ally instead of an enemy, every mistake becomes a step up. Every setback becomes a setup for something better. You'll begin to see what the successful already know, that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the foundation of it. And the person who learns faster than they lose will always rise higher than they fall. It took me years to understand one of life's simplest yet hardest lessons It's not what happens that shapes your life. It's how you respond to what happens. The same storm hits us all. The difference is that some let it sink their ship, while others learn how to sail through it. It rains on the rich and the poor, on the disciplined and the lazy, on the prepared and the unprepared. You can't control the weather, but you can control the set of your sail. I remember in my early days when everything seemed to go wrong at once. Business deals fell apart, bills piled up, and people I trusted let me down. I thought life had singled me out for punishment. But one evening, sitting alone with my notes and my frustration, I realized something. Life wasn't happening to me, it was happening for me. It was revealing where I was still unprepared, where I still lacked strength, and where I still needed to grow. That realization changed everything. I stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what is this trying to teach me? That single shift in response turned my failures into education and my disappointments into direction. Most people go through life reacting emotionally, impulsively, and defensively. Something goes wrong, and they look for someone to blame. The rich, the successful, the wise, they do something different. They pause. They take a deep breath and ask, what can I learn here? That question turns chaos into clarity. It moves you from being a victim to being a student. You can't grow when you're busy pointing fingers. Blame might feel good in the moment, but it steals your power to change. Responsibility, on the other hand, gives that power back to you. If you want to build wealth, if you want to grow strong, you must take ownership of everything, the wins and the losses, the good breaks and the bad ones. Because as long as it's someone else's fault, it will always be someone else's responsibility to fix it. But once you say, this is mine, you've just taken back control. That's the moment success begins to rebuild itself around you. The next time you face a setback, don't rush to react. Don't let your emotions make the decision. Pause for a few seconds and ask yourself, what's the lesson here? What part of this do I control? How can I respond with wisdom instead of frustration? That pause is powerful. It's where transformation begins. Emotions may visit, but don't let them unpack their bags. The rich learn to feel without being ruled by their feelings. They turn pain into perspective. They turn frustration into fuel. And while you're in that storm, practice gratitude. Not because everything's good, but because you're still learning, still growing, still moving forward. Gratitude keeps the mind open to solutions. Complaining closes it. When you're grateful even in failure, you signal to the universe that you're ready for the next lesson, the next opportunity, the next level. So remember, life doesn't change because the world gets easier. It changes because you get stronger. You can't stop the storms, but you can adjust the sail. You can't predict every problem, but you can perfect your response. And when you do, failure stops being your enemy and becomes your instructor. The world doesn't determine your results, your response does. Change your response, and you'll change your results forever. Discipline is one of life's great paradoxes. It feels like a burden at first, but in time, it becomes your greatest source of freedom. Everyone pays a price in life. You either pay the price of discipline or the price of regret. And here's the truth. Discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons. I learned that lesson early in my career when I realized that my failures weren't punishing me, they were instructing me. The problem wasn't life being unfair, it was me being undisciplined. I wanted results without routine, rewards without responsibility. But life doesn't work that way. Life says pay now or pay later, and the payment of discipline is always cheaper than the payment of regret. Discipline is what transforms pain into power. When failure strikes, the undisciplined sink into self-pity. They replay their mistakes, tell their sad stories, and look for sympathy. The disciplined do something different. They take that same energy and turn it into fuel. They say, I'll learn from this, I'll fix what's broken, and I'll never make the same mistake twice. That's the difference between those who grow from failure and those who are destroyed by it. It's not the event that matters, it's the level of discipline you apply after it happens. I remember a time when my business had fallen apart. I had excuses ready for every person who asked what went wrong. The economy, the market, the people. But one day I looked in the mirror and realized the only common denominator in all my failures was me. So, I decided to rebuild, not my business, but myself. I created small daily disciplines, reading something that expanded my mind, reviewing my goals every morning, tracking my expenses to the last cent. Those actions seemed trivial at first, but within months, I noticed something remarkable. The chaos started to fade, and a sense of control returned. It wasn't luck or timing, it was structure. The moment I disciplined myself, life began to cooperate again. Discipline gives shape to your potential. You can have all the talent, intelligence, and ambition in the world, but without discipline, it all leaks away. It's like having a bucket full of holes. You keep pouring in effort, but nothing stays. It creates consistency, and consistency compounds. The wealthy don't become wealthy because they work harder for one day. They become wealthy because they do the right things every day, especially when they don't feel like it. That's the mark of true strength, doing what's necessary, whether you're in the mood or not. When failure comes, and it will, don't waste it. Turn it into structure. Turn it into order. Build rituals that pull you forward. Maybe it's reading for 20 minutes every morning to sharpen your perspective. Maybe it's reviewing your goals every night before bed so you go to sleep focused on progress. Or maybe it's simply tracking your small wins so you remind yourself that movement is still happening even on the hard days. The smallest disciplines, repeated daily, become unstoppable momentum. And reward yourself for the small victories, not with extravagance, but with acknowledgement. Say to yourself, I did what I said I would do. That simple sentence builds self-respect, and self-respect builds confidence. Soon, discipline stops feeling like pain and starts feeling like power. It becomes your ally, not your enemy. The same energy that once fueled frustration begins to build your future. So when the road gets tough, remember this: the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret can last a lifetime. Choose discipline. Turn your pain into power. And when others quit, you'll still be moving forward, quietly, steadily, unshakably, toward the life you were meant to live. Perspective is the invisible lens through which we see life, and the quality of that lens determines the quality of our results. Most people spend their days wishing for lighter burdens, easier paths, or friendlier circumstances. But the truth is, it's not supposed to be easy. The right question is never, why is this happening to me? It's, what is this trying to make of me? When you adopt that mindset, every challenge becomes a classroom, every setback a seminar. You stop seeing life as something happening against you and begin seeing it as something happening for you. I remember in my early days, I faced rejection after rejection. Every business idea seemed to crumble before it could stand. I was frustrated, even angry, until I asked myself a simple question: what if life isn't denying me? What if it's developing me? That single shift in thinking changed everything. Suddenly, the failures that once felt final became feedback. Each disappointment taught me what didn't work, and that was just as valuable as discovering what did. I learned that the pain of failure refines your perception if you let it, sharpening your ability to see patterns, timing, and opportunity where others see only obstacles. You see, wealth doesn't start with money, it starts with mental wealth. The rich and the poor face the same storms, but the rich interpret them differently. When the market falls, one person panics while another prepares. When the deal collapses, one person gives up while another gains insight. The same event, but two very different results, all because of perspective. Adversity doesn't change your potential, it reveals your perspective. It exposes whether you see yourself as a victim of circumstance or a student of experience. The wealthiest minds I've met have one thing in common. They treat problems as preparation. They don't avoid difficulty, they extract value from it. They understand that struggle builds stamina, loss builds wisdom, and disappointment builds character. If life hands them a closed door, they don't just knock, they study the door, learn how it works, and eventually build one of their own. So how do you train this kind of thinking? Start by reframing your experiences. The next time something goes wrong, resist the urge to complain. Instead, ask, what's the lesson here? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's humility. Maybe it's learning to communicate better or manage time more wisely. When you find the lesson, the pain loses its power over you. Pain only persists when it's meaningless. Give it meaning, and it becomes your mentor. Another way to build perspective is to study the lives of those who've walked through fire and come out refined. Read the stories of people who turned trials into triumphs, entrepreneurs who went bankrupt before they built empires, leaders who were rejected before they made history, inventors who failed 1,000 times before success finally arrived. You'll begin to see a pattern. Every great success story is built on a foundation of well-interpreted failure. When you wake up each morning, ask yourself a powerful question. How is this experience preparing me for more? Because everything in life, every frustration, every delay, every disappointment is training you for a higher level of responsibility. The person you are becoming is being shaped by the challenges you are facing. Perspective allows you to stand tall while others crumble because you understand the secret adversity is not your enemy, it's your architect. If you can see the gift inside the struggle, you've already won half the battle. Life isn't happening to break you, it's happening to build you, and the stronger your perspective, the greater your power. So don't wish for an easier life, wish to be a stronger person. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more wisdom. Because when you change the way you see, you change the way you live, and that's where real power begins. Persistence is one of those quiet virtues that rarely gets applause in the moment but always wins the race in the end. You see, success doesn't come from doing extraordinary things once. It comes from doing ordinary things consistently. Most people quit not because they're incapable, but because they lose sight of the power of steady effort. They get caught up in the illusion of overnight success and forget that every overnight success was years in the making. The finish line is almost always just a few steps beyond the point where most give up. I remember when I first began building my business, I had more days of frustration than triumph. There were weeks when it felt like I was moving backward instead of forward. The sales weren't coming in, the bills were piling up, and the doubt was louder than my determination. But I made myself a promise: I would not quit. I would persist until the compound effect of effort finally tipped in my favor. And it did. Not all at once, but little by little. That's how progress works. Quietly, invisibly, until one day it becomes impossible to ignore. Persistence isn't glamorous. It doesn't get headlines. But it is the one trait every successful person has in common. The rich, the accomplished, the extraordinary, they've all endured seasons of silence and struggle. But instead of interpreting the delay as denial, they saw it as development. They understood that persistence is not about speed, it's about direction. You can move slowly, but you must never stop The moment you stop, the dream begins to die. Success, at its core, is a numbers game of consistency. You plant seeds every day through your actions, calls made, books read, habits kept, and while you can't control which seeds will grow or when they'll bloom, your job is to keep planting. Most people plant for a week and wonder why they're not harvesting. But the soil of success doesn't reward impatience, it rewards persistence. You have to water your dream long before you see any green sprout through the ground. So how do you train yourself to persist when your energy fades and your faith wavers? Start by setting a focused 90-day plan. Not a vague wish list, but a concrete, measurable goal with small, daily actions that lead you there. This gives you something to aim for, something to measure your persistence against. Then track your effort, not just your results, because results often take time to show, but effort compounds immediately. Each disciplined action you take, even when no one notices, is a deposit into your future. And when discouragement hits, and it will, go back and review how far you've come. Look at your earlier days, when you didn't know what you now know. Look at the habits you've built, the strength you've developed, the lessons you've learned. Progress isn't just measured in dollars or milestones, it's measured in character. Every day you show up, even when you don't feel like it, you are rewriting your story. Remember, persistence doesn't mean never feeling tired or doubtful. It means showing up even when you are. It means pushing through the boredom of repetition, the pain of rejection, the silence of progress, because you know the reward is on the other side. It's like mining for gold. Most of the digging yields nothing, but those who keep striking eventually hit the vein. Every great achievement has a breaking point, a moment when quitting feels justified. But those who persist in that moment separate themselves from the crowd. The world often crowns those who simply refuse to sit down when it got hard. So, when you feel like giving up, remind yourself, success doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most persistent. Every day you stay in the game, you increase your chances of victory. The journey may be long, but the one who endures always outlasts failure. Because persistence, my friends, is the bridge between where you are and everything you want to become. Failure has a way of stripping away the unnecessary and revealing who we really are beneath the surface. It's not there to humiliate you, it's there to educate you. You see, the goal in life isn't just to become successful, it's to become valuable, because value sustains what success creates. Many people chase the rewards of success, money, recognition, comfort, but they forget that those rewards only last when they rest on the foundation of strong character. Without character, success becomes a burden. With character, even failure becomes a blessing. When I look back on my own journey, I can tell you that failure taught me far more than success ever did. Success made me comfortable. Failure made me conscious. Success inflated my confidence. Failure expanded my humility. It's easy to be optimistic when things go right, but the real test is when things fall apart. That's when you discover whether you've been building strength or just stacking appearances. The truth is, success will introduce you to the world, but failure will introduce you to yourself. When you lose, you find out what you're made of. You see, if your values were real or just convenient, you see, if your principles hold when the profits vanish, and it's in that mirror of failure that real growth begins, the people who rise to greatness are those who let failure shape their character without allowing it to shatter their spirit. They use the pain not as an excuse, but as a polishing tool. Character is built in the moments no one sees, when you decide to keep your word, to stay honest when lying would be easier, to persevere when quitting would feel justified. Every time you choose integrity over convenience, discipline over distraction, humility over pride, you're building a foundation strong enough to support great success. That's what failure does. It gives you daily opportunities to strengthen your inner structure. One of the most powerful lessons I learned early in life was this: success doesn't make you better, it just amplifies who you already are. If you're greedy, success will expose it. If you're generous, success will expand it. So, the question is not just, how do I succeed, but who am I becoming in the process? Because if your character can't sustain your success will eventually collapse under its own weight. So how do you let failure strengthen your character instead of weakening your confidence? Start with daily reflection. Take a few quiet minutes each evening to ask yourself, what did today teach me about me? You'll be surprised how much wisdom is hidden in an ordinary day if you pause long enough to listen. Next, practice brutal honesty with yourself. Don't excuse your weaknesses, expose them, because you can't fix what you refuse to face. And finally, choose one character trait to work on each month. Maybe patience, discipline, gratitude, or humility, and commit to improving it intentionally. Over time, those traits will become your invisible armor against life's storms. You see, success is not just about skill, it's about structure. You can build the tallest building in the world, but if the foundation is weak, the entire structure will crumble. Character is that foundation. It's the unseen strength that keeps your wealth, relationships, and legacy intact when challenges hit. So, the next time failure knocks on your door, don't shut it out. Invite it in. Sit with it. Ask it what it's trying to teach you. Because behind every failure is a lesson meant to refine you, not ruin you. And when you emerge from that fire, wiser, stronger, humbler, you'll realize that failure never came to destroy you. It came to prepare you. It came to build a version of you that success could never corrupt. The goal isn't to avoid failure. The goal is to let it shape the kind of person who deserves success and knows how to handle it when it comes. You know, one of the greatest secrets to surviving failure is learning to laugh at yourself. It may sound simple, almost trivial, but humor is a kind of mental lubricant. It keeps your mind flexible, your spirit light, and your creativity flowing. A good sense of humor is an essential oil for the mind. When the weight of disappointment presses down, when a project falls apart or a plan collapses, those who succeed don't stiffen. They loosen up. They laugh, not because they don't care, but because they understand that tension without perspective is a trap and laughter is a way to regain perspective. I remember early in my life, I had invested time and effort into a business venture that failed miserably. I was frustrated, exhausted, and embarrassed. But a mentor said something that stuck with me. If you can't laugh at it, you'll cry at it for a lifetime. That night, I found the humor in my blunders, the missed phone calls, the wrong calculations, the silly mistakes I made. And the moment I could chuckle, my energy shifted, my mind cleared, and I could finally see the next steps without panic clouding judgment. Humor didn't make the failure disappear, but it made me resilient. The rich understand that failure is not an enemy, but a teacher disguised as a challenge. When you detach from perfection and embrace humor, you convert tension into creativity. Instead of dwelling on the error, you start asking, how do I turn this around? Humor softens the ego, and once the ego relaxes, your resourcefulness awakens. That's why some of the most successful people seem calm, even joyful, in the face of setbacks. They have learned to treat failure as an amusing, albeit uncomfortable, lesson. Practically, you can start with something simple, revisit past failures, and ask yourself, what's funny about this now? Often, what once caused panic becomes a story you can laugh about. Surround yourself with people who uplift and encourage, who can laugh with you instead of at you. Avoid those who magnify mistakes. They feed fear, not creativity. And cultivate an energy that's light enough to think clearly under pressure. Humor is a tool for perspective, problem solving, and emotional endurance. The truth is, the mind can become heavy with regret or anxiety, but a laugh can lift it. It allows you to pivot, to experiment again, and to keep moving forward. The next time failure knocks, don't just endure it, invite it to the comedy show of your mind. Because when you can laugh at the fall, you will rise more freely, more resilient, and more ready to turn setbacks into stepping stones. Never underestimate the power of humor. It's not escape, it's strength. When we experience failure, it's easy to bury it or simply feel defeated. But the truth is that every setback carries a lesson, and the real power comes when we turn those lessons into leverage. Knowledge alone doesn't create wealth or success. It's the action we take based on what we've learned that multiplies results. Too many people stop at understanding. They know what went wrong. They even feel the pain of it, but they fail to translate it into a system that works for them moving forward. Turning lessons into leverage is the art of taking every stumble and making it a step towards something greater. I remember the early days of my career. I had launched a small venture that flopped almost immediately. It wasn't the end, but I was tempted to see it as a failure and move on. Instead, I began documenting every misstep, the decisions I rushed, the assumptions I made, and the behaviors that led to loss. I started a lessons learned journal where each entry included a practical insight, what I did, what happened, why it happened, and what I would do differently next time. Over months, that journal became a blueprint, a roadmap that I could follow to avoid repeating mistakes and to apply the same principles to new opportunities. Turning lessons into leverage is about more than self-improvement. It's about creating repeatable systems. Every mistake, every failed investment, every lost opportunity can be mined for principles that serve you consistently. For example, if a client deal falls through, instead of dwelling on disappointment, I ask, what in my approach can I replicate or adjust for the next opportunity? That single question transforms failure from a weight into a lever. By systematically analyzing outcomes and documenting strategies, you convert your setbacks into tools that work for you repeatedly. The practical steps are simple but powerful. Keep a journal specifically for lessons from failure. Each month, review it and extract actionable strategies you can apply in your career, business, or personal life. Teach these lessons to others, or even find ways to monetize the insights, consulting, mentoring, or writing. Doing so reinforces your learning and creates compounding returns from experiences that otherwise might have seemed wasted. Quarterly, step back and assess your growth. Notice patterns, which mistakes you've stopped repeating, which strategies have begun to work, and where leverage can be increased. This creates clarity and direction, transforming the chaos of failure into a structured path toward success. Remember, it's not the failures themselves that define us. It's what we do with them. Success is not luck. It is learned, applied, and repeated. Every lesson you convert into action becomes an asset that compounds in your favor. When it comes to building lasting wealth, one of the most overlooked principles is the simple art of protecting yourself before reaching for the stars. Far too many people are enamored with the thrill of a big win. They chase opportunities without considering the consequences if things go wrong. But the rich know something profoundly simple. Before you multiply the upside, you must safeguard the downside. Wealth is not built on reckless gambles. It is crafted through calculated protection, careful planning, and measured risk. The foundation you build today determines how high you can rise tomorrow. Early in my own journey, I learned this lesson the hard way. I was young, ambitious, and eager to seize every opportunity that came my way. I invested in a venture that promised high returns without fully understanding the risks. Within months, I faced losses that could have been catastrophic. But I also took a step back and asked a critical question. How could I pursue growth without jeopardizing my foundation? That question reshaped the way I approached all financial decisions thereafter. I realized that true wealth requires two things simultaneously: courage to pursue opportunity and wisdom to protect what already exists. The strategy is straightforward. Before chasing a big win, ensure that your essential needs, health, and existing assets are secure. The rich never leave themselves exposed. They maintain emergency funds, diversify assets, and safeguard their income streams. This isn't about fear, it's about foresight. By insulating yourself against catastrophic loss, you give yourself the freedom to take smart risks. You no longer act out of desperation, but from a position of strength, which exponentially increases your probability of success. Practically, this begins with an emergency fund, enough to cover 6 to 12 months of living expenses. This fund is your safety net, your buffer against the unexpected, allowing you to take risks without panic. Next, diversify your investments and income streams. Never place all your eggs in one basket, because any single loss can cripple your progress. And finally, review your protection annually. Insurance, contracts, and partnerships must all be scrutinized to ensure they safeguard your future. I remember when I began applying this principle consistently. I had multiple streams of income, but I also ensured that each was protected. One business had a risk of slow sales, another had potential contractual liabilities. By diversifying and implementing safeguards, I could experiment, invest, and grow with confidence, knowing that any single setback would not undo years of effort. The lesson is clear. Wealth is built not just by pursuing opportunities, but by managing risk intelligently. Protect the downside, and you create the stability to pursue the upside without fear. Every calculated move becomes a step toward compounding growth, not a potential setback. Safety and opportunity are not opposites, they are partners in building lasting success. Guard your foundation, and the world opens up for you to multiply your wealth confidently. Understanding money is like learning a language. Without fluency, you are at the mercy of those who speak it well, and you find yourself misinterpreting opportunities, making errors, and repeating the same mistakes. Money is not just a tool, it is a system, a network of flows, rules, and patterns. Those who master it do more than accumulate wealth, they craft the story of their lives with intention. I have seen too many bright, hard-working people fail simply because they did not understand the rules of the financial game. It is not misfortune that keeps most from wealth, it is ignorance. Early in my own experience, I was frustrated. I worked long hours, saved diligently, yet money always seemed to slip through my hands. I realized that effort alone was insufficient. I needed to learn the language of money. I began by asking basic questions. How does interest really work? How do investments grow? What creates cash flow? These questions led me down a path of study, mentorship, and practical application. Slowly, the patterns became clear. I saw how money moved, how decisions multiplied over time, and how leverage, compounding, and risk management could transform modest resources into lasting wealth. The strategy is simple in principle but profound in execution. Treat financial literacy as a lifelong pursuit. You must know how to read balance sheets, understand the power of compounding, and see opportunities before they become obvious to others. The wealthy approach money like linguists approaching a new language. They immerse themselves, ask questions, and practice fluency until it becomes second nature. Your understanding of taxes, credit, investments, and leverage directly affects your ability to grow wealth. Ignorance costs far more than poor decisions ever could, because it leaves you powerless to act strategically. Practical steps make this principle actionable. Dedicate at least 30 minutes every day to learning about finance, books, podcasts, or seminars. Study proven wealth-building models, whether real estate, markets, or entrepreneurial ventures. Seek mentors and advisors who have already walked the path, and don't just absorb information, apply it. Treat every dollar you earn as a student learning the rules of engagement, and every investment as practice in your new language. I remember when I first started talking openly with financial mentors, simple questions about compounding or cash flow led to insights I had never encountered in school or work. Applying those insights allowed me to make smarter choices, avoid unnecessary losses, and accelerate growth. Fluency in money gave me control over my future, allowing me to pursue opportunities with confidence rather than fear. The key lesson is this: money speaks to those who listen and act wisely. Learn its language, understand its grammar, and practice its principles daily. When you do, you not only protect yourself from failure, you open the door to opportunities that others cannot see. Financial literacy transforms uncertainty into strategy, mistakes into lessons, and effort into results. The more fluent you become, the more powerful your destiny. You see, failure is not something to fear, it is a refining fire. Just as fire melts wax, yet hardens clay, every loss you experience in the financial world has the power to shape you. Some people crumble under it, while others emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The key is not to avoid failure, but to let it refine your understanding of risk. Every misstep is a mirror reflecting your true financial temperament and emotional limits, and those who learn from it rise above the rest. I've witnessed countless people make the same mistake repeatedly, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they never paused to analyze how failure felt and what it taught them. Early in my journey, I lost money in ventures I thought were foolproof. At the time, it stung deeply. But instead of retreating or ignoring the experience, I began to journal my emotional responses. I wrote down how fear, frustration, and impatience influenced the decisions I made. I noted which losses were due to poor knowledge, which were due to rash decisions, and which were just the natural risk of trying. Slowly, patterns emerged. I realized that my comfort zone with risk was smaller than I had believed, but also that I could expand it incrementally without losing control. That clarity transformed my approach to investing. The strategy is simple but profound. Treat every failure as a teacher of risk tolerance. Don't avoid investments or opportunities out of fear. Instead, study your reactions. Learn where your limits truly lie and calibrate your next decisions accordingly. The wealthy understand that measured, informed risk is the engine of growth. They do not gamble recklessly, but neither do they shrink from opportunity because of the memory of past losses. They expand their capacity slowly, intentionally, and wisely. Practical steps make this philosophy actionable. After every financial setback, Journal not just the outcome, but your emotional response. Write down what you learned about your tolerance for loss, your patience, and your decision-making under stress. Define your risk comfort zone, the investments, amounts, and strategies you can handle without panic. Then, as your knowledge and confidence grow, gradually stretch that zone. Take slightly larger, calculated risks, always aligned with a clear strategy and well-researched plan. Over time, this calibrated expansion transforms hesitation into courage and mistakes into growth. I remember one early experience. I invested a small sum into a new venture and lost half of it in weeks. Initially, panic and regret were overwhelming. But by analyzing the experience, I discovered I had underestimated the importance of due diligence and had let emotion guide me. By journaling, studying, and applying those lessons, I later doubled my investments with much larger sums without fear because I had learned my limits and strengthened my process. Failure, if approached wisely, becomes a compass. It guides you towards smarter, more confident decisions. It refines your risk tolerance, your judgment, and your resilience. Those who embrace it, learn from it, and apply it steadily are the ones who turn setbacks into a platform for long-term wealth. The fire of loss, when harnessed, shapes not weakness but enduring strength. Recovery is not merely about returning to where you were before a setback. It's about coming back smarter, stronger, and strategically positioned to grow. I've observed countless people treat failure like a flat tire. They patch it up, pump the air back in, and continue driving as if nothing happened. But the wealthy see recovery differently. They understand that every setback, every loss, is an opportunity not only to regain ground, but to create systems that continue producing value long after the initial pain has passed. This is the essence of turning recovery into residual income, using your experience to generate streams of wealth that work while you sleep. Early in my life, I faced numerous financial and professional failures. At first, the losses felt like a heavy chain, weighing me down with regret and frustration. But over time, I realized that my recovery could be more than a personal comeback. It could be a blueprint for others, a system that could create enduring value. Instead of simply returning to my previous income, I began documenting what I had learned. I distilled lessons from mistakes, structured them into actionable insights, and explored ways to make these lessons useful for others. That simple shift from merely surviving to monetizing recovery changed my trajectory. The strategy is clear. Every experience of recovery should leave you with a tool, a product, or a system that continues to generate value and income. Instead of seeing loss as purely negative, reframe it as intellectual and practical capital. Consider the knowledge, resilience, and problem-solving skills you gain through failure. These are assets that can be transformed into teaching materials, online courses, consulting services, books, or digital products. When structured well, these assets can create passive or residual income, turning what could have been a purely painful experience into an enduring financial and intellectual payoff. Practical steps make this tangible. Begin by identifying a failure or challenge you have overcome and list the lessons and strategies that guided you through it. Then ask yourself how these lessons can help others. Could they be structured into a course, a guidebook, a coaching program, or even an online community? Next, build systems, automated websites, digital platforms, or online marketplaces so that these lessons continue to deliver value and income without constant manual effort. Finally, Teach others. Share your journey publicly. Mentor people in similar situations. And transform your personal story into a scalable, income-generating framework. I remember when I first transformed a financial recovery experience into a series of lessons I shared with younger entrepreneurs. What started as simple guidance grew into workshops, speaking engagements, and eventually online courses that earned income consistently. The money wasn't the only reward. The real wealth was multiplying impact while creating long-term financial security. Recovery is powerful, but residual recovery is transformational. Don't just bounce back from failure. Build back smarter, create systems that pay, and let your lessons compound into lasting wealth.